Hello and welcome to the News Desk at 10 on NTA News 24. We are reaching you live from the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. I am Lydia Ojijiochi, and now the headlines. First female president sworn in Tanzania as FCT Minister of State calls for more equal rights future free from stigma, violence and opportunities for Nigerian women.
This generous funding will complement our investments in the health sector, help curb new infections.
President Buhari launches $890 million Global Fund grant for next 3 years in building and supporting health system in the country.
To provide independent objective assessment of the merit of public policy strategies.
National Economic Council considers establishment of National Monitoring and Evaluation Policy Council to reduce waste and leakages in spending. And now the details. Tanzania's Samia Suluhu Hassan sworn in as new president of Tanzania. Details with Oyeyemi Ajayi.
Tanzania's Vice President Samia Suluhu Hassan has been sworn in as the country's president on Friday, becoming the first female head of state in the East African country following the death of John Magufuli. 61-year-old Hassan was sworn in at State House in the country's commercial capital, Dar es Salaam. She assumes the presidency following Wednesday's announcement of the death of Magufuli after more than a 2-week absence from public life that drew speculation about his health. In a statement, the presidency said Hassan would address the nation after being sworn in and would also hold a cabinet meeting. President Samia Suluhu Hassan, first elected as Magufuli's running mate in 2015, she was re-elected last year along with him and, according to the constitution, should serve out the rest of the 5-year term in a top job. She is Africa's only current female political head of state and joined a short list of women on the continent who have made it to the top. The 61-year-old is affectionately known as Mama Samia in Tanzanian culture that reflects the respect she is held in rather than reducing her to a gendered role.
While the world is still basking in the euphoria of celebrating Okonjo-Iweala as the first female president of the World Trade Organization, today Tanzania sworn in the first female president in the African continent, Samia Suluhu Hassan. Obviously, expectations will be high as to what should be injected into governance from women. Now, joining me in the studio via Zoom to talk more on expectations from the new Tanzanian president is Paul James, Program Manager, Elections, Yaga Africa. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for inviting me. Good morning.
Okay. Now, what does this development portend for the world?
I think it's showing that Africa's democracy is maturing. Africa's democracy is upholding the essential principles that you want to see in elections. The principles of inclusion, the principle of transparency, the principle of accountability. She is there by chance, yes, but then it also goes to show that even the issues, people are beginning to take the issues about women inclusion very serious, and even on their part, women are beginning to take charge and bringing themselves forward in positions of leadership. She doesn't just emerge the president of Tanzania overnight. This is sheer hard work, sheer commitment, sheer dedication, something she has been passionate about. She has been around the corridors of power since 2010 when she was in the parliament and then had contested in the election twice with the president. So it also shows her grit and her determination to remain there. People that have worked with her in close quarters have praised her work ethic, her professionalism, her dedication, and her determination to see that she succeeds in that role. So I am hoping that her emergence will be a template for other African countries to begin to see the value that women bring. And it is also I'm very excited, very happy that this is happening also in the Women's Month, the month of March. Just a few days we celebrated the World Day for Women. And it goes to show that a day is not even enough, that the women deserve even a month to celebrate them. So with this kind of positive news that is coming, I am hopeful that this will permeate across Africa, and other African leaders will also begin to see the need to bring women on. Not necessarily just as bringing them as running mates, but even a deliberate attempt to begin to see that we have women on the ticket as presidents of their country.
Yes, Paul, you said she came in by chance. Now, do you think the African continent has come to an age where women can win via elections?
This is not the first time that this is happening. Liberia has done that twice with Ellen Johnson. Ethiopia, though that is appointed by parliament, but even in Mauritius, it has happened in the past. Yes, we have come of age that this is going to happen. Mauritius did that twice. Twice we had women as presidents in Mauritius. Well, it is sad that if you go back through the history from 1993 till date, we've only had like 10 female presidents across the continent. About 5 of them have been in acting capacity. So I think it is time that political parties especially begin to take that deliberate steps to give women that chance, since that is the only platform under which women can emerge as candidates. Women have demonstrated their capacity. We have seen the lives of Okonjo Iweala that everybody is celebrating. Think about most of the big organizations across the world that are now ruled by women, that are now led by women. Even across the world, we have seen what women leaders have done. Even with the fight against coronavirus pandemic, we have seen where you have women as president and how they have been able to manage the crisis of the pandemic. I'm even hoping to see that with what is happening in Tanzania and the way her predecessor had approached the coronavirus, that she's going to take a different stand against it and begin to show her determination to see how we can also nip that in the bud.
Quite obvious that you're an advocate for women in politics. Now, what advice do you have for women?
Of course, I think they should see this as, for me, this should spur them, this should challenge women, this should be a motivation for them that if Soluhu can get the chance, they too can get the chance. They need to bring themselves up, and also not just bringing themselves up, people need to also give women that platform for women to thrive.
Thank you very much, Paul James, Project Manager, Elections Yaga. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate
Now away from the foreign scene, an $890 million global fund grant for Nigeria has been launched by President Muhammadu Buhari. The grants are to be utilized over the next 3 years in supporting the fight against HIV, AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria, as well as building resilient and sustainable systems for health in the country. State House correspondent Adamu Sambu has details.
Apart from providing impetus for progress in the fight against HIV, tuberculosis and malaria, the Global Fund grants will also mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on Nigeria's health system and programs.
So today is a banner day in the fight against HIV, TB, and malaria, thanks to the Global Fund's continued commitment to Nigeria.
I'd like to assure Your Excellency that the Global Fund will continue to support Nigeria in responding to the pandemic and to the impact on the other diseases and the health system as a whole.
In addition to the grants mentioned above, the Global Fund, of their own free will, joined the League of Donors to support Nigeria's response to COVID-19 by donating diagnostic, case management, and infection prevention and control commodities worth $51 million United States dollars.
President Muhammadu Buhari expressed Nigeria's appreciation to the Global Fund for its strong partnership with the country in the fight against epidemics, thereby contributing to saving lives, especially of women and children.
This generous funding will complement our investments in the health sector, help curb new infections, and reduce HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria-related morbidity and mortality. It is my wish that in the next 3 years, these 3 diseases are taken much further down the path of elimination.
The thrust of his administration in the health sector, he emphasized, is to ensure that investments get a health system strengthening focus as the most efficient way to utilize available resources and position Nigeria on the path to sustainable health programs.
We are on track to fulfill our co-financing commitments to the Global Fund for this new funding cycle and meeting our other commitments as and when due. Let me also emphasize here that this administration has zero tolerance for corruption and inefficient use of resources. I hereby direct the Minister of Health to set up an accountability framework to monitor the use of this fund and provide periodic performance reports to my office.
While restating federal government's commitment to exploring other innovative ways of increasing financing towards ensuring universal health coverage, the president promised to work with other African leaders to ensure sustained high-level political engagement towards achieving the SDG goals by the year 2030. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
Adamu Sambo still has the next report. President Muhammadu Buhari says as long as Libya remains unstable, illegal arms and ammunition will continue to flow in the Sahel region of the African continent. The president stated this while receiving in farewell audience the outgoing special representative of the United Nations Secretary General and head of the United Nations Office for West Africa and the Sahel, Mohammed Ibn Chambers. Mohammed has more.
President Muhammadu Buhari described as worrisome that armed guards recruited from different countries during the 42-year reign of Muammar Gaddafi escaped with their arms when the Libyan leader was killed. The guards, he said, did not learn any other skill than to shoot and kill. As he puts it, they are now a problem all over the Sahel countries. The president said, despite the closure of Nigeria's borders for more than a year, arms and ammunition continued to flow illegally, saying, however, that the country will eventually overcome this and other challenges of development. He described Ibn Chambers, who spent many years in the country in different capacities, as more of a Nigerian than anything else and wished him well in his future endeavors. The outgoing UN Special Representative Mohammed Ibn Chambers thanked President Buhari for the tremendous support extended to him during his tour of duty and expressed the belief that Nigeria would continue to play a leadership role on the continent. The country, he said, is already playing a yeoman's role in tackling terrorism and violent extremism in the Sahel and the Lake Chad Basin area. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
With the nation's excess crude account balance standing at $72.412 billion and the stabilization account balance standing at about $25 billion as at March the 16th, members of the National Economic Council is giving consideration to the establishment of a National Monitoring and Evaluation Policy Council to reduce wastes and leakages in spending in both federal and states' public sector. Also, the National Center for Disease Control says the ongoing vaccination of Nigerians will continue unless there is contrary report from the World Health Organization. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports on these and other deliberations at the Council's meeting this Thursday.
The expected benefits of the National Monitoring and Evaluation include reducing waste and leakages in the public sector, improving the quality of the public spending.
Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State speaking on some benefits of the monitoring and evaluation policy, on which the National Economic Council receives a memorandum for consideration from Minister of Finance Zainab Ahmed.
Also to provide independent objective assessment of the merit of public policy strategies, program, as well as projects, and providing a source of reliable, meaningful information for the citizens in order to assess government policy.
On the journey so far on broadband penetration in Nigeria, especially since the beginning of this administration, Communications and Digital Economy Minister Issa Pantami says the sector has done tremendously.
Any benefits beyond the tax to be collected if the broadband penetration is good in our state or in our locality. So the council agreed to the resolutions, and His Excellency the Vice President intervened and also pleaded with the governors to ensure compliance in their various states.
During the meeting, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, who presided over the meeting, launched a report on the ease of doing business in states. Jumoke Oduwale, the special advisor to the president on ease of doing business, gives us insight into this.
The objective of the report is to provide a status report of the current attractiveness of states' business climates. So some of the key opportunities for change that were identified have been collated, and we're going to work with state governments starting from April to create bespoke implementation roadmaps that will be implemented immediately.
There was also a presentation on the vaccination exercise going on in the country, and Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Laulu Akonde, gives us details of this.
According to the NPDHC, all states of the Federation have received their vaccines, except Kogi State. And then we have reports that the vaccination application has been launched in most of the states. And also there's a plan to have the ICPC co-opted into the vaccine accountability to ensure that things are done properly and transparently.
The State House, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
Thanks, Jide. Needed strategies to tackle insecurity dominated discussions at the first quarter regular meeting of secretaries to the state governments. Details when we return. Don't go away. Thanks for staying with us. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo this Thursday declared open a two-day retreat of the National Council on Privatization. The retreat will, among other things, deliberate the proposed amendment of the Public Enterprises Privatization and Commercialization Act 1999. As the Vice President notes, the only way to effectively address the massive infrastructural deficit that the country faces is by public-private partnership.
I doubt whether there is anyone left who needs to be convinced that the only way to effectively address the massive infrastructural deficits that our country faces is by PPP arrangements, as public-private sector arrangements, in one form or the other. According to the Nigerian Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan, the NIMP, and the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, that's the ERGP 2017 to 2020, Nigeria will require at least $2.3 trillion over the next 30 years to bridge this yawning gap. But a review of budgetary allocations for capital expenditure, even over a decade, and the past decade, will show that government resources are completely insufficient for this purpose. While government can take either commercial or concessionary loans for infrastructure development, this is an additional burden for a usually considerably leveraged balance sheet.
As Vice President Osinbajo observed, there is a large pool of investable funds from both local and international investors for the development and maintenance of infrastructure, which are only accessible where there is a business case to be made for developing public infrastructure. State governors and the Conference of Speakers continue their dialogue on the best way to resolve the lingering issues surrounding the implementation of the Executive Order 10, which has to do with financial autonomy for the legislature and the judiciary at state level. Representatives of both sides jointly had a meeting with Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, last week, and hoping to conclude in the next meeting. The parties also met with the Chief of Staff to the President this Thursday and Chairman of the Governors Forum, Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State, speaks on the outcome of the meeting.
Very fruitful meeting. I think we're nearer solution than disagreement. And there are broad principles that we have all agreed on, but the details will be worked out as soon as possible. In principle, we are fully in support of autonomy of the legislature and the judiciary. Two, whatever framework we put together would be on a state-by-state basis because fingers are not equal, as you know. Three, even at that, there must be an irreducible minimum below which no state should go.
Thank you very much.
The House of Representatives has commenced a legislative process to enact a law on cyberspace intelligence to effectively combat security challenges in the country. Chairman, House Committee on Defense Babajimi Benson disclosed this during an oversight visit to Defense Headquarters in Abuja. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali has more.
This visit is the first official engagement between the House Committee on Defense and the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo. The committee reiterated that in supporting the federal government to end all forms of security breach, the House initiated several legislative interventions to improve logistics and enhance performance, latest of which is the proposed bill on cyberspace intelligence.
The importance of space and cyberspace to the modern warfare cannot also be underestimated. The space and cyberspace has become a very critical sphere economically and militarily. Therefore, maintaining their capability is now an emerging necessity for military operations globally.
The defense chief says fostering a professional, result-oriented and effective armed forces that is loyal to the provisions of the Constitution is paramount.
There will be a collective good for not just the legislature, but of course the entire Nigerians that you represent.
The oversight enabled the committee to obtain information on the capital projects of Defense Headquarters for 2019 and 2020. In another development, the House Committee on Federal Road Safety Corps has handed over fire trucks to the Borno State Command of the Corps, donated by the state government. Lami Ali, NTA News.
The needed strategies to tackle the increased rate of banditry, kidnapping, and other forms of insecurity being experienced in parts of the country dominated discussions at the first quarter regular meeting of secretaries to the state governments. Kenneth Nanim reports that the meeting, which was held virtually, was presided by Secretary to the Federation, Boss Mustafa.
Leveraging on the theme of the meeting, which is the role of secretaries to the state governments in strengthening sub-national level security architecture, the National Security Advisor and the Inspector General of Police urged the SSGs to embrace community policing strategy and synergize with stakeholders to sufficiently coordinate all security activities in their domain.
Fighting insecurity within the localities, that's why the federal government came up with community policing strategy. And this community policing strategy, as we're implementing it, we want the secretaries to the governments of each state to be fully involved in it because they are the ones to guide the government of the states on the implementations and the challenges that are associated with it.
The initiative has commenced in most states and it includes, but not limited to, the regulation and mobilization of all informal policing outfits profits.
Adequate intelligence gathering, deployment of ICT in national security, public enlightenment, and the need to strengthen traditional institutions were identified at the meeting as some of the areas requiring urgent attention at the state and community levels.
Honestly, we must go back and recalibrate the entire political structure. If the works and the local governments are not working for us, let's begin to think about other things that will work for us.
The meeting also evaluated implementation of social investment programs at the state level and the need to secure the forests from criminal activities in order to harness inherent potentials. Kenneth Nanim, NTA News.
FCT Minister of State Ramatu Tijani Aliu has declared that women want and deserve an equal future, free from stigma, violence, as well as equal rights and opportunities for all. The Minister of State was speaking at a World Press Conference as part of activities to commemorate the International Women's Day in Abuja. Ifeanyi Ezumba reports that numerous NGOs in the field of women graced the event.
Women in leadership achieving an equal future in COVID-19 world, with a sub-theme has choose to challenge.
While appreciating the numerous NGOs in the field of women, FCT Minister of State Ramatu Tijani Aliu pointed out that when women lead, there will always be positive results.
Women are yet to form the critical mass in the legislation, that is in the legislative arm. We are just about 1% now. So we are calling upon women to actually come out, to be bold enough to contest, to vie for positions.
Permanent Secretary Olushade Adeshola said, the welfare of women has always been of paramount importance to the FCT administration.
The issue of participation of women in the service it has become the norm. In FCT administration, it is also the situation.
Acting Secretary, Social Development Secretariat, Kevin Ike, and others stressed that the essence of the program is to build a strong women fold in the FCT.
What we do in Social Development Secretariat is total emancipation of women and children in the area of eliminating extreme poverty, employment generation, wealth creation, and value orientation.
To hold on tenaciously to the victories that we are already seeing. And we stand by the slogan for this year's, sub-team, choose to challenge.
Having seen what women can do, both at a national and local level, it is important that that space be created to encourage other women to step in.
Presentation of special gift on behalf of FCT women by the FCT Minister of State. Among the recipients are the Permanent Secretary, FCTA, Acting Secretary, FCT Health and Human Services Secretariat, among others. In Abuja, Ifeanyi Ezumba, NTA News.
Up ahead, Court of Appeal dismisses APC suit against Obaseki.